Okay, guys, so thank you so much for joining the meeting and our little monthly powwow here. The main things that I wanted to go through tonight is I want to go through several different mini topics tonight, and hopefully everyone has a little something to say as well as just enjoys the information that comes up. I'm going to share my screen with everyone. So first thing I want to share, can everyone see this all right? Sort of? Yeah? Yes, no? You can see a list of results. So I wanted to share these results with everyone because you are all responsible for this. And this is pretty special. We're not a huge team. We're not like one of these mega teams like 100 people and all of that. We're a tiny little group of people that are all closely connected that work together, and I coach you. And we still have 2 more races. We have a bunch of people racing Indian Wells this weekend, and then we have some people racing Florida 70.3 in the middle of December, and then it's the end of the year. But this has been a collection of the results so far for 2022. Pretty amazing, right? I mean, you look at that, 38 wins, 26 world championship qualifications. I mean, that's a testament to everybody's dedication, hard work, just continuing to show up, their consistency, their absolute resilience through the year, and being able to train hard, but then put it together on race day. So I really wanted to honor that. And I know I've put it on social media a couple of times. I'm just so proud of the team for what we've done. And I've had so many outside people even come and say, man, your crew really has stepped up and raced really well over a number of years, but really noticeable this year. So really, really good job to everyone. And, success breeds success. And I remember when I was part of squads, train in Boulder with particular groups of athletes and training partners that force you to step up a level because you're surrounded by people who are doing something great, and they're showing you along the way on what the habits and patterns and how to execute doing things well is, and you lift your level to that. When I've trained in squads where we all actually lived and trained together as well, same thing. It's like when you're surrounded by people doing really great things, you continue to learn what that looks like and keep lifting. So, we get busy in our lives and we get going through the year, and you might not recognize it until it's all like summarized like that, right? And pretty cool stuff. Really, really amazing. So I first and foremost wanted to say that, and everybody give a pat on their back and a clap to each other, and a good luck this weekend to everyone in Indian Wells. We've got a big group there, so hopefully lots of fun and lots of good stories too. I was told as a coach I'm not allowed in the WhatsApp group for that one because it'd be like mom coming to the party. So I said that's okay if I don't come to that one. Okay, so I need to figure out here. Stop sharing this. Next thing that I wanted to walk through is if you're participating in the Run Challenge. So now the Run Challenge was born, a little bit of history on it. The Run Challenge was born way back. It's got deep roots with Scott Molina and Gordo Byrne, who are kind of 2 people who raised me in triathlon and through my results and success. And another physician and part of Endurance Corner was Dr. Jeff Schilt, who is still part of the triathlon community. He does a lot of speaking for USAT. He goes with USA Cycling to the Olympics, that kind of thing. So pretty smart people. And they, a long time ago, talked about how running for 1 month straight, every single day, what a huge impact that has. And Alan Cousin followed their when they did this as an experiment years ago. This was over 10 years ago, what the physiology changes were. They put us like a physiologist and on it, and it became a part of the community that it was this, we're going to run straight for 1 month every single day. And the impact that had was just enormous in terms of running progression forward, overall endurance base, durability in the athletes going into the next season, all of these things. So over the years, I never forgot that. I also did a lot of things with, it sort of takes 28 days for a major change to happen with people. A lot of cycles are 28 days, different programs, those kinds of things. So if we can do something continuously for 1 month, you really notice a change. I 1 year noticed, I always look back at like we do performance review on each of you as athletes. I also look at the program as a whole because I see so much data and I see so many people responding in different ways. I do a collection and say, is there a hole in the overall program where I'm seeing a pattern in something? And there was 1 year, a number of years ago, where I felt like there was a number of people not performing to the level that they could on the run. And I wasn't happy with that as a coach. And so I remembered this philosophy and brought the run challenge in December because it worked logistically in the year. December is like the busiest time of year for everyone. They've got a lot of things going on as far as like other commitments and holidays and all of that. It's also the weather's starting to turn, and so people's motivation changes. The race season's ending. All of these things come into play. And it was perfect timing in the year where we're not having to bike as much. Maybe we're moving into the trainer, we're doing some strength training, not swimming as much. So it was like this perfect recipe of addressing an issue I saw overall from an old program that was historically, we knew it really was effective and why it was effective, and implemented it into my group. And the results the next year across the board for everyone were like, boom, way up. Everybody, that problem was solved within the group. Everybody ran. And it wasn't just that thing in particular, but it had a really positive impact. So every year since, I brought the run challenge back. It also brings us together as a community. It allows us to compete with one another a little bit. It connects us in a time of year when we might be prone to like, oh, we're all busy doing other things. So it keeps us just a little bit connected. So it is, as much as it just seems like we're throwing this challenge out there, I thought I would bring everyone together and remind you why, the history of it, why this was brought in, why it was important to me, and why I keep it coming every year. And so it's not just sort of like thrown in off the hip, off the cuff. It's really, really well thought out. I do the programming. I change it a little bit every year based on things that I see from the previous year and tweak it and that kind of thing. So if you choose to do it, great. If you choose not to, that's totally fine. Different approaches. Obviously, everybody's in different places. So you may do the easier sessions as a walk. Like I just started running again for the first time after like 4 years off running. So I'm not going to run 25 days in a row, but I'm going to get on my legs 25 days in a row. Right? I'm going to walk some of the days, run some of the other days, but I'm going to try and get out there on my legs for 25 days in a row and hit the key sessions. If you weren't ready for a 5K TT, you might just, like I'd said in the note, just run a steady zone 2 or zone 3 or wherever you're at in your training. The idea is that we're out there for 25 days in a row on your legs making a change. So hopefully that helps everybody understand the history of it a little bit more, the impact of it, and why I keep it in the mix, and certainly give you the freedom and the wiggle room to make choices within it, whether you choose to do it or not, or if you choose to just do pieces of it or not, and make just, calculated decisions based on what's happening in your life and what you need, and communicating with me what you need in your program and that stuff. And everybody's in different places in their life. So absolutely all of the above is completely okay. Okay. I know I'm the one doing a lot of talking this meeting, and normally I don't do that normally, but I just really wanted to address these things because I felt like they were important as we wrap up the season and as we come into December. The next thing though, hang on 1 second, bear with me as I share my screen. And this kind of goes along with, oops. Okay, can everyone see this all right? This goes along with what I was just talking about with the run challenge. I wrote this little article a week or two ago about identifying your roadmap. You all know I do quite a few of these different little things that you can take advantage of or not, giving you some food for thought. But the big thing, so as we come out of your season, we start to debrief last year and plan for next year. We always do that, and we're coming into that period of the year at the end of December and January. And as we look towards what some of your goals might be. I think it's really important in this time of year, even as we implement the Run Challenge, is to be looking at process-orientated goals. So yes, we acknowledge the results, and like we did at the beginning, like absolute kudos to everyone, the results, but we know that those results only happen because we focus on the process all year, right? And we're really good as a team at doing that. We really show up every day. We have a lot of consistency. We focus on the right things at the right time. And then the race results happen because of that, right? And so I wanted to just bring this article to everyone's attention. You can go, you can see it's in my library. It's in there under mind on the mental side of things. And you can go through these questions on your own time and just revisit them as you evaluate your year. And I even sort of spanned it out for everyone, even across like, other areas of life, health, finances, mental health, spirituality, educational growth, those types of things that really have nothing to do with sport, but they have a lot to do with us as humans. And as humans, what we are as humans is what we bring to sport as well, right? So I think it's important at this time of year to look at all of that. And mostly, I even did this exercise myself. I was like, oh, when do I usually feel the happiest and the most productive and the most successful? And when I show up and do that every day, that's when those results follow. And it's that process that we're always focused on, the process and the process orientated points, that we continue to get better and better. And the reason I bring this up at this time of year is because we're at the end of the season, and we're not, when we're at the end of the season, we need to decompress and we rest a little bit. But then there's a point where we need to bring all that focus in, and we don't get too far away and start to scramble into the season. That's what I think we do a lot better than a lot of other groups, and why we're so successful, right? The other groups that sort of go away for too long and get too far away from their goals and the process of it all, then they're scrambling at the front end of the season, and they end up injured, or they don't quite get there for the race season, and all of those kinds of things. That really crucial time when you could be making progress as an athlete and as a person is kind of wasted, right? So go ahead and take a look through that. Does anyone, before everyone falls asleep on me, because I am doing all the talking, I would like, go ahead and on those points so far, because they've had a really nice rhythm to them, right? And I've given you a lot of information really quickly, is tell me a little bit of what's going through your mind and how you bring this all together for yourself, for you. Anyone that wants to share. If you've gone to sleep and you don't want to share, that's okay. I'm just happy you're here. But if you'd like to share, and there is something that has sparked inside you as we're talking about this, go ahead and throw your hand up. Somebody, or I'll pick on you. I'll actually ask somebody.
I'll talk.
Good.
I think seeing that is actually kind of refreshing for me, because I grew up with a dad who always asked me what my goals were. So, but I think one of the biggest things is a lot of my happiness, and even like just making a moment better, is all about sunshine. Like, I feel like if I'm having a hard moment, getting out into the sunshine is always really important. And I think that's part of what brought me to this level of sport, is just, if it's on my schedule during the day, I'm going to get outside, and that is something that just makes my day better. So it's just that simple, just having it built in and knowing that that's something that is so easy, just getting out in the sunshine.
I love that. Actually, Erin, I'll share with you, when I started, this year, I decided, okay, I'm going to start all three again, swim, bike, and run, and not just the cycling. My main goal was first, just show up at the pool, just get in. Didn't matter if I used all the toys in the world so I didn't sink to the bottom. It didn't matter what my pace times were, anything. It was just like, just show up and swim the swim. And then the next step was, okay, I'm going to swim the swim, and at least 80% of it, when they ask me to, I won't use any toys. And if I don't sink, it's a miracle. Like that was good. And then the next was like, okay, now I'm going to try and execute the whole workout without exactly as they're asking me to. And then the next was, okay, I'm going to do exactly as they asked me to, and I'm actually going to look at the clock and see what my times are. And then once I knew that, I was like, okay, well, now I can start looking at my times and trying to hold specific times. And that's taken 4 months. So I went from like, I just got to show up and just throw a buoy in and hope that I don't sink, then to like 4 months later, now I'm looking at the pace clock, right? I did the same thing with the schedule. I wrote out a schedule and I thought, well, I'm going to try and get through this week. And I knew I wasn't going to get through it all to start with. And it took me, again, it's taken me, actually last week was the first week I completed all the workouts that I had planned for myself, except for one. I had one red box. I was like, damn it, damn one red box. So my goal has been just to complete all of the workouts. And if I can just show up and complete them, that's a win. And if I can repeat that like 3 or 4 times in a row, then I can start putting some like, okay, well, maybe I might look at some pace for this day if I'm feeling pretty good, or like maybe I'm a bit tired, so I back off, or so you start making decisions from there. So starting with, hey, I just need to show up because the sunshine is really good for me. And always come back to that, right? Like when you're, like you say, you always circle back to that. All of you are way, even way past that, where you're at an end where you're like, oh, I already do that. I show up every day and I complete all my workouts. You're like, I'm kicking your ass, Marilyn, 10 times. So if you've already got that, then if you start to drift away at certain points in the season or at certain busy times in your life, you can just always revisit to what brings you there. Like, oh, I really, really just need to get out in the sun every day. Right. So that's really good stuff. Anyone else have something like that? Hey, Jose.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good, good.
Hi, everybody.
All right. Well, if no one has something to add to that, I won't put too much heat or pressure on people. I'm being a little nice because it's December and it's the holiday season, so I won't pick on you too much. The next topic, like I said, it sort of flows with these different, these different topics, but they're all slightly different. I'm going to share my screen again. This next one actually is, this is a presentation I'm going to be doing with World Triathlon here on December 6th. And I'm not going to go through the whole presentation with you, obviously, but I just want you to make you guys aware of it and what's happening. And it's all these different organizations and federations coming together, and they've asked me to be the coach on board, the coach's voice for our safety and sport in triathlon and what coaches can do for athletes and making our sport safer. Okay. And so I'm just going to quickly, the reason I wanted to show you guys this tonight, a couple of things, make you aware of the fact that the presentation's happening and that these organizations do come together to put your safety first. But also the other reason is when they started asking me these things, and you're going to see the slides that I roll through, and they're just sort of point notes for me when I do speak for them, are things that us as a group, so go back to that success that I showed at the very beginning, our list of results so far this year, they were really obvious to me that you are all really, really on top of this stuff. Like you're all already going into these events really well prepared. And if in any of these cases, you've gone, when you review your year and don't feel like you understand any of these things, or maybe you didn't get a chance to practice them or implement them, then it can be something to work on in this off season, because the off season is the time to improve this stuff so that next year you're even better. So that's why I wanted to bring this up. So all this stuff is just a little bit of jargon of who's involved, what the safety task force team, that's really hard for me to say, is all about. If you guys decide to join for that, you can. I think it'll be recorded. But it's the role of a triathlon coach in promoting safety. And really, it's our responsibility as coaches to then educate and teach athletes so that all of you show up at your races feeling really, really safe, right? And you know what to do. And I think all of you do such a great job in knowing how to troubleshoot and showing up there with the right education and mindset and equipment and all of these things that maybe other people you can aren't getting access to, right? And I've categorized them in 4 different things. So physical preparation, your skills overall, your mental preparation, and your equipment. So really brief, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, like I said, but these are just different things that if in any of these at any point as athletes this year, as you do your year-end debrief, you haven't felt prepared, come to me as your coach and say, hey, these are things that I need to work on in order to feel even more confident and even safer in my races and better at my execution, so we can continue to see those results grow. So physical, it's, your appropriate training plan and making sure that your training matches the events that you're in. Nutrition plan with, a very dialed in nutrition plan that we know it can be different in heat, different in cold conditions, different for every athlete. Pre-race warm-ups, a lot of these races we're not allowed to get in the water and it can be very cold, and so we need to be well prepared in our warm-ups. We also need to know how to warm up appropriately when it's very hot out so we don't overheat. Having good medical clearance before we do any of these events, we touch into that. Obviously, I encourage you all to, in your off seasons, getting medical checkups, whether it's be getting, heart checkups, just physicals, your blood work, all of those kinds of things, making sure in that off season that all that stuff is taken care of, which we already do all this as a team. Look, Jose, you're going to go worldwide famous on the slide because I used your picture. You're going to be in there. So skills as well. These are all things that we work on and talk about a lot as a team. Navigation in the water, readiness for the conditions, whether it be chop, wave, cold, heat, overheating in the water, these extreme cold conditions. Christina and Aaron, you're going to be facing that in Indian Wells this weekend. We have these conversations as a team and between athlete and coach to make sure we know how to handle these and you're safe, right? Bike skills, getting in and out of aid stations, descending, cornering, being able to get your nutrition off your bike and in the busy aid stations, the bike packs and the crowded courses, knowing your paces, and being able to troubleshoot on the run when that is maybe needing to be changed based on conditions and what's happening with your body, recognizing what those signs are and all of that, and being able to troubleshoot them appropriately, because it's a self-driven sport, right? We have to have those skills from me as your coach and in your training before you get out there so that you know what to do. That's our job together as a team, is making sure that me as your coach lets you know, hey, when this comes up, you know what to do. And you know what to do in every moment to make sure that you're safe and you're ready to go. The mental side of things, we do a lot of this as a team. And if there's any area here that you feel like you can improve on through the off season and going into next year, obviously knowledge of course, your focus plans going into your races. Feedback system is all of the gadgets we use, understanding the technology and what it means, which we talk a lot about that. And we practice it a lot in our training as well. What does it mean when my heart rate's rising and my power is dropping and I'm starting to get a little dizzy and blurry headed? What does it mean when, I'm getting the feedback from my data and from my body, and how do I adjust to make sure I continue to be successful as well as continue to be able to execute my race really well? That's why we have this data. It's not to just be married to it and locked into it. It's just like all the gadgets on your car, right? It's a feedback system to allow you to use that knowledge to adjust accordingly and not only stay safe, but be successful in your races, right? Goal setting, we do this as a team, but it's amazing. I put in my notes when I do the talk actually about, and I'm going to talk a lot about appropriate goal setting, and that's appropriate goal setting for course, conditions, preparation, and your ability level, and being really in tune with that and making sure that your race plan is really clear. But we always do race plans, right? We know exactly what we're going to do when we get there, and then we know what all of the wiggle room is around that, based on all the knowledge we've gained through training and the conversations we had to be able to execute really well. And then the next one is equipment. So if there's any changes that you're going to be making to your equipment through your off season, start thinking about it now. Is it skill level appropriate? So as you get better and better as athletes, you want to take a look. Am I going to be able to handle different race wheels? Is it appropriate for the courses that is the equipment I'm using appropriate for the courses that I'm choosing next year? If you're going to be racing in Nice, France, that's going to look a lot different than if you're racing in Western Australia or in Indian Wells. Your wheels, your aero setup, what the water conditions, is it no wetsuit? Is it really cold water? Do I need that? Do I need an aero helmet? Do I need to make sure I don't have an aero helmet so that I don't overheat? You know, all of these things. Are we going to try some super shoes? Now's the time to start play around with this stuff and get dialed into it. Is it appropriate for that next level that you're going to step up to, and the courses that you're picking as you're picking your race season out? So all of these things that you're looking at. So I just really wanted to make sure that I shared that with you. And you know, there's going to be obviously a more detailed panel and several other people. Beth from Ironman is going to be there. Some other really great people who run Norseman, people part of World Triathlon, different physicians, everything. So if you guys want to join in on that panel on December 6th and view it, let me know for sure. But there's going to be a lot of great detail on that. But because we get to do these meetings ahead of time, I just wanted to share it with you and give you also the heads up on, as you debrief this year and you go through, okay, these are my, you know, we started at, these were the results and they were awesome, right? And then these are the things that we're going to do in our off season and why we're doing them. And we're going to start to construct our preparation plan and our homework towards next year. And we're looking at all that. Break it down into, and I actually posted this slideshow in my guidelines on my website. So if you want to like review it as you do your year-end debrief and start to think about next year, your courses, your equipment, all of these things, you can take a look through that and use them as points to say like, hey, where am I at with all this stuff? Where am I at as far as picking courses and my improvement and all of that? So, all right, I have done all of the talking so far. And we've had some people come in and out. Vu showed up a little bit late here, but I'm happy to see you. Good to see you. I would like you guys to chime in on, from start to end, any of those topics, where you're at, thoughts, things that you might be looking at changing, any of those kinds of things. Volker? I'm gonna start pulling out names like a mean teacher.
I don't have a specific comment here.
You know, Emily, you're here with us.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, it just took me a minute to find the unmute button.
That's all right. How about you? Where are you at with all of this?
Well, I'll say I had a very strange year in general, because I had two very physically and mentally taxing events that forced me to, not do any training for multiple weeks, both of those times, and kind of derailed any sort of race plan that I had for the season, which, we kind of knew going in might happen. So, I think this entire year for me was a year in learning how to adjust my goals on the fly. I'm a pretty intense person by nature. I think the number one thing Marilyn has taught me is to do, go 100% on the day. Sometimes you're 100%, especially this year. Like sometimes my 100%, is 50% or 30%, but that's 100% that I had for the day. I'm someone that likes to hit numbers and hit targets, and probably get a little stressed out when I don't. I have really high expectations of myself. So, I think this year was definitely a year in learning to really listen to my body. And ironically, now here I am at the end of the season, probably feeling the best I felt in years, probably because I've done that. So I think incorporating that into my next year plan, is a good thing. It just took some real, getting my ass kicked a little bit this season to figure that out.
That's awesome. That's really awesome stuff, right? It's that going back to that point of process goals. And I think if we're always going back to the root of our process goals, we can tap into a performance and some kind of event or results pretty much it's not that it can happen anytime, but it really can, right? Like if you're always in touch with that and you're really consistent, especially the older we are, we stay super consistent, you can continue to improve and even get to a better and better place. And then you're never really far away from saying like, okay, we're going to just really specifically train for this event for 8 weeks, and boom, you're in a great shape and in a really good performance place. It's when we have big gaps, like you see, 6 months off or a year where we're, not living that lifestyle. Like I go back to that, that identification of when you're your happiest, not staying closely connected to that it's that long crawl back, or you see people not really ever get there. Right. But because you're able to stay connected to those process goals and sort of show up for yourself every day, show up in the sunshine every day, then at any given moment, just with, you've seen, Emily, you do like 3 weeks worth of pretty focused work and you're like, oh man, I'm flying. I'm great. Because you do such a great job at just ticking it off, nicely all the time and just staying connected to your roots. So that's really good stuff. Nope, she went silent again. Christina, you're at your final race of the year. You've had a huge year. And so let's hear from you a little bit.
Yep. Can you guys hear me okay? I was trying to find that. I'm on my phone, and so there's like 3 different screens of where like the mute button is, and then everybody else is on some other screen, and so trying to find how to unmute. I'm like, what is going on? Yeah, no, it's been a crazy year and a crazy fall. Like I had a few things sprinkled throughout the year, but then like since August, it's just been sort of like a lot of things packed in, and then a lot of unexpected things that sort of came up and unexpected. So my husband got like one of the worst cases of COVID ever, and is still sick, Marilyn. Like he's still like not okay. And it's been like 2 months now at this point. So that's been rough. And then work has been kind of like the craziest it's ever been. And trying to get back into getting back into like that normal routine of like commuting and training and doing like everything. So I got really used to, being like at home for the last, couple of years, and not having to be like, oh, I got to get everything in the morning before my day starts so I can make sure and get everything done. And so it's just been sort of this like kind of crazy balance the last couple of months of trying to just get back to everything. And I was, and Marilyn knows I was, I've been struggling a lot with like, okay, I got to fit it all in, and how am I going to do this? And some days it just all fell apart completely. And then other days it was fine. And then just, but trying to think about, and the thinking about like the happiness and all of those, and trying to refocus and remember that like, what is my ultimate, for me, what are the ultimate goals here? Why am I doing this? What is the, what is the reasoning? And, for me, it's like, there are things that for me, it's more of like, there are events I want to do and things I want to be able to try. And that's where my goals lie, more so than sort of, paces or different time goals or things, but just like, I want to be able to do, X, Y, and Z. And thinking about that those sort of big picture things, similar, Aaron, to your sunshine, like, like what is the reason? Like my happiness comes from being able to be like, okay, I'm going to be able to do this thing that I want to do. But I can't do that thing if I don't do all these steps to get there. Or I'm going to get there and it's going to really be bad because I, wasn't prepared. And so that's been a lot of the things I've been thinking about the last couple of months, and trying to help with, with my motivation and getting things organized and being able to get all of it back on track, and manage all the crazy commuting and all the work stuff on top of everything else. So.
Yeah, that brings up some really good stuff, Christina, is that, the routine is a big part of people's, in general, you see like success with people, right? And whether it be work or athletics and balancing it all together, other hobbies. But I think when people who are motivated to find whatever the routine is within each period of time, it can look different at different times, but finding that routine and trying to stay as close to it as possible really helps it helps give consistency and clarity about where your day is going and where your week is going. And then it stacks on top of one another. And before you know it, you're really doing the process to getting to where it is that you want to be, right? Like that's sort of like the root of everything when we get that. I know that and that takes planning, right? And that's why we look at all these things and we make these lists and we have these conversations, because it just opens up our minds to saying like, hey, I need to take a look at this. I need to reevaluate these things. I need to very specifically categorize these things and go through them and just touch base with where I'm at with them as it changes, or different parts of the season, or different things that are happening in your life, and staying as closely connected as you can. And then of course there's like wiggle room there, right? Like I use the example to you guys, like I laid out this routine and it's taken me 8 weeks to even get 95% of it, right? So it's like, but you just say, this is something, and what happens is when you do start getting that, at least I noticed for myself, is that all the other things follow, like creativity comes back for me, which is important to me, and excitement in other areas of my life as far as feeling really happy and good. The relationships in my life get better, like all of these things that don't even have anything to do with the athletics and sports just follows that. Right? Or it gives you that space to be, clear-minded towards a project that you're working on, and all of these things. So I think they all fall in line with one another, as much as we can look at the front of this presentation and say, these are the results that happen, which are amazing. And that's why we acknowledge them, but it's so much deeper than that. Right. And there's a reason why we're able to be that successful, is because it's like you're working on all these things all year. I'll share with you guys a little story. When I didn't do endurance sports for about 4 years, I retired in 2012 from professional racing and went to strength sports, as you all know. And the moments for me, like I can share with you, Christine, when you're talking about doing what you need to do every day to do the things you love. I went on a girls' trip to Moab, and I was with 4 women who were all still endurance athletes, and they all wanted to go for a hike. And I physically couldn't anymore, because I hadn't done cardio in 3 years. I'd just been lifting weights. And nothing made me more upset with myself and sad that I couldn't actually physically go on this 3-hour hike with my girlfriends. This had nothing to do with results or competition. And from that moment on, I was like, I need to start doing some kind of cardio again. The next moment that made that even more is we were still endurance corner, and we had the Tucson camp, and I was following everyone in the car. And I realized I really felt like I was missing being next to my athletes on the road on the bikes. And although I could see a lot from the car and I could coach them, I couldn't have really important conversations with them and see things and demonstrate for them on the bike right beside them on 2 wheels. And I swore, I was like, I will be fit enough. I made it a goal to be fit enough to be able to ride with my athletes in my camp. Had nothing to do with racing. Another real clear moment was I was in Boulder visiting a friend. I was laying in bed and she got up early and clipped in and went to roll out for a little bike ride. And I realized I couldn't go with her because I hadn't been riding. And so it was little things like that, that when you don't have them, that you realize how important this is. And of course, soon as you start training, like soon as I started riding and I did all this training, I jumped in some, because I follow the principles that I help you guys with. Someone taught all these things to me, and I use them, and then I share them with you, is I was able to have really good results. I jumped back into bike racing and did really well, right? But it was all the way down to there. I literally couldn't go and do these things with people I really, really cared about. Like at the end of the day, I really cared about being out on the bikes with you guys at camp, or when you come to town, or these things, being able to demonstrate for you. And it made me really upset. So it is you're like, oh, I have to do this every day so that I can go do the things that I like to do, So then I'm sure as I'm saying this, you all have a personal story for yourself that you're thinking of when you hear these things. Oh, I would like to always be able to do this, because it makes me feel a certain way. And that's where we go back to that identifying your roadmap. Was some of the inspiration for me putting that together. If you guys go and seek that article out a little bit. All right, couple last little things here. is someone asked about testing. Obviously, we talk about the things to do in the off season. I do think, getting, if you at any point this year you needed to get a medical, this is the time of year to do it. The blood work stuff, if you're taking advantage of the inside tracker stuff, we always get a discount there. So if you want to do that, make sure you reach out to me with that. Or if you just go through your general practitioner, either way, I think it's a good idea to just get an overall health check and make sure that everything is still ticking along really well. As far as VO2 testing, I think if you're going to look at any kind of lab testing for your performance, you're best to get a lactate step test with a fuel profile. That's the most useful for us as endurance athletes. And it's good to get it if you're and if you're in your off season and you're have let a little bit of fitness go, which is what we do in our off season, it's probably not the best time. Wait till you put a little block of training in, and then go ahead and get if you're looking into the testing as you go, a lactate step test with a fuel profile is what you want as a endurance athlete. VO2 testing is good if you're a 1500 meter runner on the track or an 800 meter runner, or you're going to be a 40K tier or maybe a pursuit rider on the track, then that's important, but not so much for us long distance athletes. And then handling the holidays was the very last thing I wanted to touch on. And it wraps up nicely with all of the things that we're talking about. We've all had like a huge year. So know that there's lots of wiggle room at this time of year. I love that, using that phrase, because it just gives you some freedom, right? Like there is room to tend to your family and your friends and all the things that you might not get to do all year. Do that stuff right now. Play in the run challenge. We're going to be working on different off-season stuff, like evaluating these things that we've gone through on this call. Going to be starting to look towards next season. But through the month of December, if there's sessions missed or moved, or it's done a little differently, or you jump in with some friends on like some rides, those kinds of things, it's okay in December. And remember, I'm human too, so I get that, and I think that that's important. I put out in December what I think is what is good to do. And me as a coach, if it starts to get too out of control, I'm going to rein you in and say something. And if I think you're being reckless to a point where it's going to set you up for failure or injury, then I'll definitely say something. I'm not going to let you go that far. Or if you're getting, so far away from any activity, I think you're also setting yourself up for failure for your goals next year. I'll always tell you. But know that through the month of December, I understand that you're going to be at more holiday parties with more family. Maybe you're eating all kinds of things, drinking, dancing, missing sessions, adding sessions, group activities. Go do that stuff. Just log it. Know that like, hey, Marilyn's human too. She gets it. She's probably doing the same thing. It's totally fine. Just communicate with me. This is it's a two-way, it's a relationship. So you just log it, let me know, and know that, hey, yeah, there's definitely lots of freedom through December. And that's the other reason, like we talked about at the beginning with the run challenge, is that just gives you a way for us to all connect and banter and have some fun. And if you're going to do one thing every day, if you can go for a run, it's short, it's quick, right? It's like most effective, good bang for the buck. You get to play around with the community. Even if that's, like I say, on some of them, I'm going to be walking, I'll do the key sessions, and then the other sessions I'm going to be having to walk them because I'm not ready to run 25 days in a row. So that, everyone's going to have a little different strategy on how they go about it. So know that handling the holidays means that this is also a good time to have some connections with friends, family, and other things that you like to do. And I'm going to get that completely. So just communicate that stuff with me. So, all right. Very last thing is, if you're planning to come to camp, which I'd love to see you all at camp, of course, let me know. The sign up is just on the camps tab on my site. If you scroll down, there's like a register, and it just pulls you right up to the registration page. I leave Jesse in charge of all the finances and money. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's a bad life decision. I don't know. But so Jesse takes care of all of that, but it is on my site. So if you have any issues with it, reach out to him. Definitely love seeing you all there. It's a great time, and I think it sets up the season really well. Same thing, we do the run challenge, and then that falls into our spring high volume camp, which has such a good start to the year. You get 1 week of a ton of volume. I get to see you in person and check in with you. You get to spend some time with your teammates and a few new people, get into the sun on some harder terrain here in Tucson, and then you start to get kicking into your season. So there's a flow to these things for a reason. If you're not able to make it, totally okay. I understand that. But if it's something that you're thinking about doing, let's see, get signed up for that as soon as you can. Any closing final thoughts from people on the team based on, I know I ran you through a lot of material tonight. All of it is searchable and you can find it on my site. So if I went too fast or you showed up like at different stages of this meeting and didn't get the first couple of topics that we talked about, I'm recording this so you can go back and watch it. And all of these links are on my site, so you can go back and refer to them as you go through your end of season stuff as well. Any closing thoughts from anyone? Jose, nothing to say. How's the dancing going is what I want to know. It's off season. Only thing, Jose's not allowed to dance in his dancing shoes because he has very fancy shoes. And when he dances in those ones, he always gets injured and it's cute. So he can dance, just not in those shoes.
I danced yesterday. You're gonna see my 5K today.
Good.
It's awful. But,
From the dancing.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Good stuff, team. All right. Well, good luck, Christina and Aaron at Indian Wells and Volker at Indian Wells. If you guys get into shenanigans after the race, please post photos for us. I love that. That's so fun. If you are starting to look at races for next year and you're wanting to, there's a small group from our team that convinced me to do the St. George 70.3. So if you want to come line up and kick the crap out of me there, come join us there if you're looking at races, and we can have some fun there. And yeah, have a good weekend, everybody. And we'll obviously, if you want to keep these going in January, I'm also going to be looking at bringing the some of the Zoom rides back in after the holidays, and, the team these team meetings and stuff. So all things that will continue, but enjoy your holiday season. Give yourself lots of grace through the holiday season. Finish the year out super strong, you three, at this race. And thank you so much for taking the time to show up, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye. Cheers.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.